Mr. Tsenengamu, thank you so much for joining us on the Big Talk. This is the Voice Network with me, Costa, and we want to hear quite a number of things from you. And recently what we have observed or seen in the press is that you alluded to the fact that the opposition is dead. Maybe you would want to share why you think that the opposition is dead in this country.
Yeah, firstly, I would want to say, from my point of view, we no longer have an effective opposition. Which opposition is supposed to be making checks and balances on the government of the day, which is supposed to be calling out on the authorities and on matters of national interest. Whether they are parliamentarians, they are docile. They are not doing the expected in parliament. Even in terms of organized opposition to the ruling party, there is nothing of that sort. All we have are individual voices speaking against certain issues which may be of interest to them as individuals. But we no longer have effective and organized opposition to the government which is there, which will be championing issues on behalf of the people. All we have are individuals enjoying privileges in parliament, enjoying privileges in council, and some who have chosen to go into bed with even those in the ruling party. So I would want to ask anyone who says we still have an effective opposition to show me one, and then I'll show them 10 virgin prostitutes, because we don't have an effective opposition as of now. Yes, we have people who, as individuals, who oppose certain things that are being done by the government, that are being done by the ruling party, and speak against that whenever they feel like they want to speak. So it's true, I maintain that the opposition in Zimbabwe is dead. And some have been asking me to say, at one point you were with the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe. Yes, we came out and formed the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe as an alternative in the political arena. But I resigned from FIS, if it not end of 2022 or in the beginning of 2023. When we went into the 2023 elections, I was no longer with FIS. That is why I stood as an independent member of parliament in Mount Darwin South, because I was no longer with the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe. And I believe that party is still there. I'm not sure what they are up to these days, because I've not heard anything from them. But I resigned as an individual because that party was not me. It was not an individual's project.
Who formed FIS?
We formed FIS. I didn't form FIS. We formed FIS together with others in 2021, in August 2021.
And as an opposition, as an alternative?
As an opposition.
Is it also dead?
I'm not seeing it. I've not heard anything from them. It's there. I've talked to anyone in that part, they'll tell you that I resigned from FIS some time ago, and I'm no longer with them. And I'm confirming that we don't have an effective opposition.
Yeah, we'll get there, but maybe let me just find out what motivated you maybe to be part of the people who formed FIS.
No, I believe in collective economic emancipation of the people. I believe in shared prosperity. I believe in a corruption-free Zimbabwe. And it is for that reason that at one point I was chucked out of Zanu PF when we spoke against corruption, we spoke against what we alleged as cartels at that moment. And we were chucked out. So we went on to create an alternative platform so that we can provide a voice and speak on behalf of those who were believing in what we were pushing for. A prosperous, corruption-free Zimbabwe. That is what motivated us to come up with the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe, because we just didn't believe in fighting for political power, but we also believed in pushing for equitable access to resources and opportunities by every Zimbabwean. So we wanted really to be pushing for that on behalf of Zimbabwe. That's why we came up with the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe.
Are you aware that some of the people who you mentioned or listed as corrupt within Zanu PF then, some have actually been promoted or have been co-opted into the Central Committee, Zanu PF, which you now want to go back?
No, I'm very aware that Tafazo Msarara was at one point DCC chairman for Mazwa. Unfortunately, I'm told he was suspended, and at some point he also contested for the provincial chairmanship in Mashonaland Central. That's within his rights to occupy a position of leadership in an organization that he wants to belong to. You cannot take away that right from anybody. I'm aware that Elder Kudakwasheta Gray has been recommended by Harare to be co-opted as Central Committee member. And I think that's within his rights to want to be active in politics and belong to Zanu PF, because maybe he believes in what Zanu PF stands for. So when we came out and spoke about them and making allegations, it's not like I had or we had anything personal against them. But it was at that point that we had information that we thought constituted some vices that we were not happy with. And that is why we came out and spoke against that. But it's not because I hate Elder Tagure. No, I don't hate him. I have nothing personal against him. I don't, it's like Zanu PF, it's like a family. You will not agree with everybody on everything. Zanu PF for me, I will equate it to Ngaravaya Noah. Mungaravaya Noah maiva nenzou, maiva neshumba, maiva nembada, maiva nezvidembo, maiva nenungu, maiva netsoko, even mashosha ivamo. Zvidembo zvaita zvazvaita. Nungu dzichita zvadzaita, but vanhu vese vaingogara varimo, because it was only in the ark where there was life, and outside of the ark there was no life. So as much as nungu dzichita zvadzinoita dzichibaya vamwe neminzwa, zvidembo zvichita zvazvinoita, you cannot choose to say Noah vhura ndoda kubuda panze. Some of us were out of Zanu PF not by choice. We were chucked out. We were forced out. Being in Zanu PF doesn't necessarily mean that you agree to everything happening there. But yes, I cannot fault Zanu PF in terms of its ideology. I cannot fault Zanu PF in terms of its aims and objectives, because I long believed in those objectives from a very long time ago. And I still believe in those objectives. I still believe in the principles that the party is supposed to be standing for. I may not be in agreement, yes, with certain individuals in terms of how they conduct themselves. So if I had not been forced out of Zanu PF, I would still be in Zanu PF today. Expressing myself, saying, no, I'm not in agreement with 1, 2, 3 things.
So now that you are going back, these people that you were calling out for corruption, for being corrupt and so on, they are still there if they reformed, that is persuading you now to wanting to go back. Have they changed their stances? Have they changed their behavior?
No, look at it this way, my brother. I always, no, looking at corruption, corruption is everywhere.
No, this came from you. You
Yes.
had a very long list.
Exactly.
Including some people who are now ministers.
Let me explain.
Yeah.
Corruption is everywhere, not just in Zanu PF, in Zimbabwe. And you know it. Have you decided to get out of Zimbabwe because there are corrupt people? No. You still live in Zimbabwe, despite the fact that there are certain people who conduct themselves in a way you dislike. You have not said, no, I'm no longer a Zimbabwean. But if circumstances force you out of Zimbabwe, then that's another case. Mm-hmm. Well, so in terms of individuals that we are accused or we pushed allegations against and say they are doing 1, 2, 3 things. No, I cannot leave Zanu PF, a party that I believe in, because I'm saying certain individuals are not behaving right. Because the party is different from individuals. The party is an institution on its own. It's like accusing the opposition of being corrupt. No, it's not the opposition that is corrupt in Harare City Council. It's individuals who align themselves with the opposition who are corrupt. So you cannot then fault a family for the errant behavior yemwana wemfamily. And imimi kumusha kwenyu mkoma Costa kune varoi, kune vanhu vanoita zvavanoita, but you continue to belong to that family. So Zanu PF is not a grouping of saints. It's not. It's not. The opposition is neither a grouping of saints. We have people, very good people within Zanu PF. We have good people within the opposition, bad people in the opposition, bad people within Zanu PF. And outside of the opposition and outside of the Zanu PF, we also have good people and bad people. So my point is, look at this way, my brother. I didn't choose to go out of Zanu PF. I wanted to fight Zanu PF. I wanted to fight corruption from within Zanu PF. Because Zanu PF, according to one of its aims and objectives, it's also there to fight against corruption.
So when you go back, are you going to resume where you left? Are you going to start from where you left, fighting corruption from within?
I've always detested corruption, even when I was within Zanu PF and when I was outside Zanu PF. So I have no personal vendettas against anybody. Mm-hmm. But I will continue in my path of not wanting to be corrupt. But in terms of fighting corruption, whenever I get a chance and I feel that we must speak against certain vices, not just against corruption, against all the negative vices, I will stand up and say, no, this is not right. But within the confines of the party constitutions, the party rules, and the regulations. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going back into Zanu PF or seeking to be readmitted because Zanu PF has reformed or there are no longer corrupt people there. Even in our family, there are corrupt people. Even in our church, we have corrupt people. Mm-hmm. So I've not said Zanu PF is now corruption free. No.
One would say maybe you are now just desperate. Maybe you can't survive outside Zanu PF. Is it rightly put it to say if you stepped out of the Noah's Ark, then you can't survive? And this is why you are now going back to Zanu PF because you can't stand on your own. You are a man of no principles.
No, I have principles. I stand against corruption. Even when I was in Zanu PF, I was not corrupt. I stood up and spoke against corruption. I've done a lot of things that to this day I'm proud of. You know, so like I said, remember I didn't choose to be out of Zanu PF. I wanted to be within Zanu PF, speaking against corruption within Zanu PF, because there are nice people within Zanu PF and bad people within Zanu PF. So as is the case outside Zanu PF. I'm not desperate to like you have said, say, I don't have anywhere to go, there is no other home other than Zanu PF. But you know what? I had a deep conversation with myself and said, okay, fine. How did I join Zanu PF? What was my aim in the first place? I wanted to serve. I thought being there, I would get an opportunity to push for things to be done differently. And there is a better chance of influencing for better things from within Zanu PF than shouting from a distance. I've observed that. I'll tell you this. Look at it this way.
What do you want to reform from within Zanu PF?
No, just making sure that Zanu PF does what it's supposed to stand for.
Like,
No, I'll share with you the Zanu PF constitution. It has got about 13 very good objectives. And when you go through those objectives, you cannot fault a Zanu PF for anything. The question is, why are these things not being done? So if you believe that what Zanu PF stands for is right, but you don't agree to what maybe certain individuals are doing, you can still air your views from within Zanu PF. Have engagements with other progressive guys in there and say, no, comrades, I think there is a better way of doing things. Why can't we do things this way for the good of everybody? You see, so yes, I want to be back in Zanu PF as soon as yesterday. I'm not running away from that fact. My reference to Noah's Ark, that there was no life outside of Noah's Ark. Look, the truth is, when you are outside Zanu PF, you no longer have that influence to push things in the direction that you think things have to go in this direction for the good of everybody. You may have your political party, you may have everything, but for as long as you don't have access to state power and those with the state power to influence to do what is right, you are as good as you don't exist politically. Because you may shout, you may yell, but it will yield to nothing. But when you are part of that institution, you are able to influence positively and say, no, comrades, this is what was fought for, this is what the party stands within the confines of the rules and regulations of that institution. You belonging to this media house doesn't mean that you agree to everything happening here. But you know, there is always a silver lining in every dark cloud. Even those within the opposition, them being there doesn't mean that they agree to everything happening there. That's it. So I'm not going to Zanu PF, back to Zanu PF because it is an institution of saints. No, neither am I a saint. I'm not a saint.
I saw one of the comments in the Daily News story where you actually said the opposition is dead and you are retracing your roots back to Zanu PF.
Sure.
There was a comment there that said, no, hapana zviripo ingori nyaya yenzara chete. Mahane nzara, that's why you are now thinking of getting back home.
No, asina nzara ndiani. Asina ndiani. Even vari mu opposition kuchemera kupinda mpawa inzara. Vari kusapota opposition vane nzara. Ende vari kungofila kuti keke riri kudyiwa nevashoma dai radyiwa nemunhu wese. Politics inauye dumbu everywhere. Ndokusaka muri kuona ma-councillors e-opposition vaakudyawo. Ma-MPs e-opposition vaakudyawo. Ende vanyararaka. Because vaapa table. Isusu vamwe takataura tichidya isu, tikadzingwa. Imimi kutouya kubasa inyaya yenzara. Vanhu vari kurima inyaya yenzara, asina nzara ndiani. So hakuna chekuti vanhu vangataura kuti you are going back to Zanu PF because une nzara. Even vari kuopposa Zanu PF because vari kufila kuti yavapa nzara. So they are voting for the opposition because vane nzara. Saka hapana asina nzara. It's no issue. Indine nzara, iwe une asina nzara ndiani. So yes, ndine nzara, but nzara yei. Handina nzara yekuluta because I had power. I had access to everything. I didn't loot. I didn't steal from public coffers. We stood up and said, no, this is not the way. Because I believe in collective prosperity. Munhu wese ngaadyewo. I don't believe mukuti vanodya nzou ndivo ngavadye mabhafalo, wodya mombe, wodya mbudzi, kunosvika kutsunya-tsunya nemajuru. No. Mukadyawo nzou dzenyu chisiriwo, vamwe vadyawo zvimwewo, vamwe vodyawo. This is what Zimbabweans want.
But do you believe that's the right thing to do? Maybe to say, if you really want to make it in this life in Zimbabwe, you have to be a Zanu PF person. You have to be a Zanu PF member, dude.
No, I don't believe in that.
Why can't you make it without really joining?
No, it's not like you can't make it without. I'm not. My answer to your question is not to say I failed to do certain things because I'm outside Zanu. I believe that I can influence for positive change within Zanu PF. Because Zanu PF doesn't stand for bad things. We have bad guys within, yes, doing bad things. But look at Mpuya Varikwa Tito Varikumkumbura. She's not corrupt, but she belongs to Zanu PF because she believes in what Zanu PF stands for as an institution. So not everyone is in Zanu PF is corrupt or wants to be in Zanu PF because they want to loot. I rose from being a cell member to a central committee member. That's who I am. Whether ndiri mupower or ndiri kunze, ndinongorarama nenzira dzangu. That's who I am. Chandisina handina, chandinacho ndinacho. But coming back to your question, comrade, kana uchida, if you want to make it in life, never fight those with power. That's a simple principle. Even zvikatonzi whoever muri kufunga opposition apinda mupower, zama kumufighta uone kuti anokurega here uchiita mari kuti uzouya umurwise. He won't do that. Look at what is happening in America. Trump na Elon Musk. Once you start fighting on a power, they will make sure kuti that's a simple principle of politics. Comrade kana takurwa hapana patinonzi fairness ndipo matumbu maviri otoro matumbu maviri ihondo yekupi inodaro iwe. So when you challenge those with power, expect a reaction. So my point is, if you don't want to be in Zanu PF, that's your right. Everyone has got that right to belong to Zanu PF or to belong to another political party. But you know what? You cannot come out and oppose a government and seek to take it out of power. Then go to the same government and say, facilitate for me that I get money. Show me, even in the world, even kunonzi ndo democrat. Show me. It doesn't happen. Even Mumba, let's talk of Mumba, Marco Costa. When a child starts misbehaving, what do? You stamp authority as a father. You show direction with no munomu izandidi kana uri kuda kuti uwane zvakati nezvakati muri munomu izvauite.
But that's provided for by the constitution.
No, all I'm saying is, comrade, ngatitaurane zvinhu zviri realistic. Ngatisataurane zvinhu zvisingaitike. Mufamily menyu imi mutori dictator, comrade. Ask your children, izvozvi pakanzi panoitwa vote, havakuvoterei imi, because you are a dictator in the family. But that is how you make things happen. I'm not glorifying dictatorship. All I'm saying is, if your child stands up to challenge your authority, which is within their rights, you need to say sababa. You know. So my point is, kana uchida kuita mari, wherever in the world, it's either unonyarara, wita mari yako wakanyarara, or you work never in power. That is the norm now. Everywhere.
This is what you have realized.
Everywhere, not now, everywhere. Look at it this way. Trump anga kuthreatena Elon Musk nekuwithdraw nenaudzema EVs and so forth, because they are no longer in good books. Elon Musk chakaita supported Trump in a way kuti ane privileges haidini aida. Hakuna munhu anokusapota asina chaano-expecta back.
Yeah, I think this satisfies the whole question about you going back to Zanu PF. I think you've admitted. But I also wanted to find out from you.
You are missing it.
You and me can agree that there have been allegations leveled against Zanu PF for a very long time, the issues of violence and so forth. I just want to find out, when you go back, what role are you going to play in terms of, either pursuing that route or trying to rebuild that tag that it carries as a labeled as a violent party.
Oh, okay. No, before I get to this question, I wanted to say I think you have deliberately chosen to miss the points that I've been raising in regards to why I'm going back to Zanu PF. Comrade, I was forced out of Zanu PF. I didn't choose to come out of Zanu PF. So if I had not been forced out, I would still be in Zanu PF today because I believe in that party. I believe in its ideology. I disagree, yes, to how certain things are being done. You get it? So because that's where I wanted to be in the first place, for that reason, I'm going back. You get it? Look at me. Do I look like a person who is suffering? I've been managing my life. I've been managing my family. When I was in Zanu PF and when I was out of the side of Zanu PF, I have ways of looking after my family, of raising money for my family and doing everything. I've been doing that. Remember, I started getting a salary from Zanu PF only in 2018. All these years, from 2000, it was voluntary work. So how have I been surviving without a salary from Zanu PF before I became National Political Commissar of the Youth League? I was surviving through my own means. And this is what the majority of the people are doing. You are choosing to acknowledge that I was chucked out of Zanu PF for standing for what is right. And if for whatever reason, you guys are choosing to say, I'm going back into Zanu PF because ndinenzara. And you guys are also opposing Zanu PF because munenzara. Muda kudyawo. Anditi, muda kupiwa mukana wokita sei? Wekudyawo, muda kuti munhu wese adye. Hapana asingadi kudya. Whether uri muZanu PF or outside Zanu PF. Ini chandisingadi chete ndechekuti vanodya nzou vadye zvese kunosvika kutsunya nemajuru. That's not my way of doing things. I would want every Zimbabwean to have equitable access to resources and opportunities. Now coming to a question, Ekulebra Zanu PF is an violent party. Fine. We have had incidents of political violence in the past, where Zanu PF members were involved and also opposition members involved. Without exonerating Zanu PF or trying to shift blame, we also had, you remember there was a concept of DRCs, Democratic Resistance Committees, in the opposition. Remember there was violence at Changrai's funeral. It was not Zanu PF. Remember there was violence in Bulawayo when Kupe and crew had a fallout. It was not Zanu PF. Violence is within our DNA as Zimbabweans. I can accept that.
But I think we might not need to equate that to...
No, all I'm saying is...
When we look at the figures of deaths and people...
I agree.
...maimed and suffered all kind of torture...
No, I do agree.
We, in this discussion, I think, will be insincere.
No, I agree. But like I've admitted that we have had unfortunate incidences of violence, political violence. But my point... that is involved Zanu PF. And I've also went on to say, at other instances, it has also involved opposition members, intra-party violence within the opposition. And the violence of Zanu PF members against those in the opposition. I've acknowledged that, and it's very, very unfortunate and sad that it has come to that. And I don't think that anyone must be violated for holding a different view. But I would want you to look at it this way. When I made an announcement that I'm going back to Zanu PF, I've been subjected to a lot of harassment by those who say Zanu PF mustn't harass us for belonging to the opposition. But they have thrown all sorts of insults against me for saying I'm practicing my right of wanting to associate with the Zanu PF.
Probably they've
So
been people who wanted to be their leader.
imagine if those people were to get state power. Such level of intolerance and toxicity.
Let's not.
I'm coming back to you. You have asked the question, and I'm elaborating that violence seems to be in our DNA, and it's very unfortunate. We must move away from that as Zimbabweans, whether we are in Zanu PF or we are in the opposition. No one must be beaten up for belonging to Zanu PF or to the opposition. No one must use their authority to trample on people's rights. I don't agree to that. I was a member of the opposition, and I'm not yet readmitted back into the Zanu PF. But I had certain experiences which I wish no one goes through that. And when I get into Zanu PF,
What did you experience?
no, like look at it this way, that we have a relationship today because we are in Zanu PF. And because I've been chucked out, you are afraid to associate with me. You are afraid, fear of the unknown, that if I am to be seen with Tsenengamu, then I'm finished. What is that? We are brothers, we are sisters. And so that is the level yekuti unoti politics dzipi dzatirikuita munyika muno. So when I get back into Zanu PF, I would want to be somebody and preach love, to know. Because I'm being honest. Look, no one is guaranteed of being in Zanu PF forever. Vakaifoma chaivo vari 8 6 vakafa vasiri mairi yakuvahaunda. Saka even ndikanzi ndadzoka ndava muZanu PF, we must have this conversation nemacomrades kuti no, hapana guarantee yekuti unoramba uine power or unoramba uine influence. Mangwana unongogona kumuka uri panze. So ingotreata vamwe in the same way unoda kuzotreatwa usisina power or usisiri within circles of influence.
So when you go back, you're going to stop violence.
No, if ndine power rachoka, if I have that power, but wherever I am, talking to you as an individual, I would influence you to be tolerant. And ngova munhu ane rudo nemumwe, it's right yake kuva opposition, right yako kuva kuZanu PF. Ngati compete in terms of ideas, in terms of policies, let people choose. Because this is basically what our fathers and mothers fought for. And that's what we must be pushing for. So I'm trying to talk to Zimbabwe to understand that being outside of Zanu PF doesn't make you a saint. You can be evil and be outside of Zanu PF. And Saka, you don't become evil because wa kunengwe party, or you become a saint because wa kunengwe party. That's not how things work.
Then there's also this other theory, Comrade Tsenengamu, that says you are now going back to Zanu PF at a time the succession issue is boiling up, and you are going to play a very influential. You're going to be very influential, just like you did, perhaps, maybe, because this is another theory that says Tsenengamu was very influential during former president Mr. Mugabe and the incumbent President Mnangagwa and so forth. And you remember the story that you are associated with. And someone was saying he is now going back to Zanu PF because he is going to be at the center of the succession matrix. What is your response?
No, look at it, my brother. Vanhu ivava havatonzwisisa kuti succession dzemuZanu PF dzinofamba sei. If I wanted to be effective in these succession battles, I was going to remain outside of Zanu PF. Because once I get readmitted, I'm bound by the rules and regulations, the Zanu PF. There are certain things that I can't say. Because doing that means mangwana ndinomuka ndichidzingwa. And I don't want that record rekungoramba ndichitandaniswa. Mai Mujuru vakambotitandanisa, Mugabe vakanditandanisa, the current president anditanda ndodzoka futi pasina nguva ndotandaniswa. I don't want that. So dai ndaida kunyatsonzi ndoda kuita game resuccession. Na ndisingadzokere kunokumbira chigaro ndairita ndisingadzoke kunokumbira readmission. Because being readmitted means I'll be restrained from doing certain things. Once I get there, izvoni zvese zvemainterview atiri kuita izvi hapasisina handichagona kumaita. Anenge akutoitwa navamutsvangwa speaking on behalf of the party. Saka vanhu ivo vari kutaura nyaya idzodzo havatonzwisisi. Panguva yavaMugabe ndakanga ndadzingwa kaini muna 2015. Kuti da kuti uone nyaya patakaparticipata pakudzingwa kwaMai Mujuru. It was during my 6 months suspension. Timu raMai Mujuru randidzinga. Unconstitutionally, without going through procedure the disciplinary. Ndobva vanditandanisa. And it was within those 6 months that I participated in her sacking. Ndakufighta back. Andi muri kuona. VaMugabe ndokubva vandidzinga 2015. Ndisina position ndakarwa ndisiri member ndakadzingwa. I was readmitted back into Zanu PF in 2017 after vaMnangagwa wapinda. Ndakaita 2 years ndisiri muZanu PF but tichirwa. Hapana anondibvunza ndaiita mapresa angu ndichiita zvandaida because handina mutemo uri kunditonga. So izvozvi ndikanzi leadership yati I've been readmitted. Handina zvandichaita. Ndakutonobehave meme because mune mitemo yemo inoti who speaks to the media, who doesn't. Chii chinotaurwa chii chisingataurwi. Andi muri kuona. Saka vanhu vari kutaura nhau yekuti ndiri kudzokera kuZanu PF because ndoda kunopinda musuccession. Kutopinda muZanu PF muye zvinoreva kuti handichakwanisa kuva free to say out my mind and do whatever that I want. And look, ndikadzoka ndiri kudzoka as a card carrying. Ndinogona kunzi enda kuchitepo umbonetwa reorientation. Ndodzoka kubva kuchitepo ndonzi good uri card carrying for 5 years. Ndinge ndakagara pasi pomutika zvangu tichishedzerwa musangano wokusero. Saka ndo pandingabve kusero kuya kunotaura nhau dzesuccession kupresidium. Because in between inini ndiri CEO or card carrying member, pane CEO, pane branch, pane district, pane DCC, pane province, kudzamara yasvika kunational. Saka ndo pandingati tucha kubva uku kuya kunodaira nyaya dzeku hakuna.
I think it was because of your history.
Inhau yekuti vanhu havanzwisise kuti ndakaparticipata muzvinhu izvozvo when I was either suspended or expelled from the party.
But what is your personal view in terms of the 23rd project that some of your colleagues in Zanu PF have been pushing?
No, party in a position yayo yakatora kuconference kuti iri kuda kuti vaMnangagwa vadini vaextend. Ivo president vakataura opposition yani yavo. So inini no handi kana ndajoina muparty ka handi express personal opinion yangu ka. Personal inotopera musi waunotipa musi wogodi.
You haven't been readmitted, so what are your personal views?
No, ndaifanira kunge makandibvunza izvozvo ndisati ndaaplyira. But now because I've initiated the processes the readmission handichakwanisa kutanga kutaura zvinhu zvine controversy or zvinodivide party or leadership.
Do you think in Zanu PF is running out of people who can lead the country after the president, the incumbent?
No, hakuna, haina shortage yevanhu Zanu PF. Even imimi chaiye mukatotarisa you can tell kuti no mune vanhu vanotova neruzivo rwokuti nyika inofanira kuitwa sei. And leadership haisi individual, you lead as a team. It's not a solo journey that you take as an individual kuti ndakunolida nyika. If you whatever that you have as a vision or as a policy proposition, you share it with your team and the team buys into your vision and you work on that vision or objective as a team. So Zanu PF is an institution obviously with a leader. So you work together as a team. So from within Zanu PF, even vamunangagwa vakanzi team yawo yapera or havasisipo or so forth. Zanu PF mune vanhu at all levels vanokwanisa kuita take up leadership.
And what kind of a leader would you want to see after the President Mnangagwa?
No, inini ndongoda leader anokwanisa kubatanidza vanhu. Leader anokwanisa kuisa Zimbabwe first ahead of self. Leader anokwanisa kudila decisively ni corruption. Leader anokwanisa kita champion collective prosperity. Leader anokwanisa ku builder from panenge pasiro na leader achindambe. Leader who is not vindictive. Because you know, pane zvinoitika panguva vanhu yamunenge muchita fight and jostle for positions and whatever. Vamwe pane vamwe vanobuda voti tinoda Costa, koita vamwe vanobuda vachiti tinoda Tsenengamu. Leader anozoita succeed haafanire kuva vindictive kuti sei makanga musingadei nini. Iright yevanhu kusarudza munhu wavanodini wavanoda. So ndonda leader anokwanisa kuaccommodate vanhu. Leader anokwanisa kunzwawo opposite view from view yake, who can engage with vanhu vese. Leader wekuti anokwanisa even kutora vanhu vari within opposition kuuya kunoita part of government.
Do you think the current leadership is able to fight corruption decisively? Is it able to unite the people? Is it able to really execute what is expected in as far as the constitutional mandates are concerned with that positional positions?
No, you need to not believe that leadership is at different levels. You have leadership in central government, you have leadership ku local authority. You also have leadership in the legislature. Each one of us must execute my duties ake. Pane zvinhu zvekuti ukazviona kuti zviri kuitika unotoona kuti iyi problem yevari mu central government, iyi problem yevari mu local government. So each one of us must commit kuti tinofanira kuita zvatakasarudzirwa kuti tiite. Nevaka appointwa whether into commissions or into positions of authority must execute my duties as expected. So like I've said, leadership is not about just the president. It's about the whole team. So I believe kuti leadership yedu yese ikakwanisa kusia tumwe tunhu twese tusina nebasa reso, it can do wonders. And when I'm talking to leadership, ndikutaura iri mu central government neiri mu local government kumamisha, whether there is Zanu PF or opposition. Look at how affairs are being done in opposition run councils and in Zanu PF run councils and so forth. It leaves a lot to be desired. So we need to change our ways of doing things as Zimbabweans. Takabatana kuti no izvizvi maitiro atiri kuita haasiro, because my problems atiri kufesa haasi kusarudza, tiri kumafesa tese. Kana iri sewage iri kubesta tese iri kuti affecta, kana iri mvura isina kunaka, kana ari magetsi asiri kuuya ari kuaffecta tese. So I just wish kuti dai tabatana, but kubatana also zvakunoita pachirungu anoti it takes two to tango. Ari kuka akadanira kuti ngatibatanei, zvinodawo vari kudanirwa kuti varesponde positively. Hamusi kunzi uyai tibatane because we don't have differences. Tiri kunzi ngatibatane because we have differences, but we must be able to come together and work on our differences for the greater good.
You are very right.